Welcome to another exploration into the shadows of urban legend. I am your host, and today we delve into the chilling consequences of a joke taken too far. We have all, at some point in our youth, succumbed to the allure of a prank. Perhaps it was the simple thrill of a ding-dong ditch or the anonymous rush of a prank call. There is a specific brand of adrenaline that comes from minor rebellion, the heartbeat thudding in your ears as you sprint away from a doorbell, the stifled laughter shared with friends in the dark. For most, these are harmless rites of passage, stories told with a smile years later. However, in the spiritual landscape of East Asia, there is a persistent warning. Some boundaries are not meant to be crossed. When a prank transitions from a victimless joke to a disturbance of the unseen, the repercussions can be permanent. Tonight's narrative is a cornerstone of Hong Kong urban lore. It has been whispered in various forms across the continent, yet the core remains a sobering lesson on the weight of our actions. After we conclude the story, we will analyze the events through the lens of traditional Chinese metaphysics to understand why a simple slip of paper could trigger a haunting. Our story centers on a young man we will call Aki. This took place in an era before the ubiquity of smartphones, a time when communication was tethered to copper wires and public kiosks. Aki was a typical high school student in Hong Kong, uninterested in the rigors of academia, and far more invested in the social hierarchy of the soccer pitch. He lived in one of the city's sprawling public housing estates, where life was lived in the communal corridors and the narrow alleys between concrete monoliths. Aki was known throughout his neighborhood as a relentless trickster. He found joy in the confusion of others. He would balance chalk erasers atop classroom doors to dust unsuspecting teachers and spend his evenings dialing random numbers from the safety of public payphones. In those days, the lack of caller ID provided a cloak of invisibility that Aki exploited to its fullest. One humid evening, following an exhausting soccer match, Aki was walking through his estate, nursing a drink from a nearby convenience store. He passed a solitary weathered phone booth standing under the flickering amber glow of a street lamp. On a whim, fueled by a pocketful of spare change and a lingering sense of boredom, he stepped inside. He had no target in mind, only the desire to elicit a reaction. He deposited a coin and dialed a series of random digits. A man's voice, weary and impatient, answered. Aki remained silent, breathing heavily into the receiver to build tension. When the man demanded to know who was calling, Aki adopted a demanding tone. "I'm downstairs," he said. "Why haven't you come down to open the door yet?" "I've been waiting for ages." He hung up before the man could respond, imagining the stranger's irritation and confusion with a sense of triumph. As Aki prepared to leave the booth, his eyes caught a flash of white tucked into a crevice behind the telephone unit. It was a small, meticulously folded piece of paper. When he unfurled it, he found a phone number accompanied by hand-drawn hearts. It looked like a relic of a secret romance, perhaps left there for a lover to find. To Aki, it was merely an invitation for another round of mischief. He smoothed the paper against the glass and dialed the number. The ringing tone felt different this time, slower, more resonant. Eventually, a woman answered. Her voice was a fragile whisper, sounding as though it were traveling from a vast distance. Aki, leaning into a predatory persona, said, "Hey, beautiful. I'm standing downstairs. Why don't you come down and let me in?" There was a profound silence on the other end. Then, in a voice that barely disturbed the air, she replied, "Okay." The line went dead. Aki was momentarily taken aback by her lack of resistance. He felt cheated of the reaction he sought. He immediately redialed. When she answered again with a faint "hello," Aki deepened his voice, attempting to sound more intimidating. "I told you I'm outside. I thought you were coming down." A soft, breathy laugh echoed through the receiver, a sound devoid of warmth. She hung up again. Frustrated, Aki deposited his last coin. This time, the connection was plagued by a strange, rhythmic static. The silence that followed was unnatural, a vacuum of sound that seemed to pull the ambient noise of the street away from the booth. Before Aki could utter a word, the woman spoke. "I'll come find you," she whispered. The chilling detail that froze Aki's blood was the perspective of the sound. Though the receiver was pressed firmly against his right ear, her voice vibrated clearly inside his left ear, as if she were standing directly beside him in the cramped booth. The line disconnected. Aki exited the booth, a cold shiver tracing his spine. He tucked the slip of paper into his pocket, intending to use it again, though a seed of unease had been planted. As he walked away, he glanced back. Standing just outside the booth was a figure in a pale dress. She was motionless, her face obscured by the reflection of the streetlights on the glass, peering into the empty space he had just occupied. Aki quickened his pace, dismissing it as a coincidence. A few nights later, the memory of the encounter had faded into the background of his daily routine. After another late-night game, he found the slip of paper in his pocket. The impulse returned. He approached the same phone booth and dialed the number. This time, there was no answer. He smirked, assuming he had finally frightened her. But as he turned to leave, the payphone began to ring. The sound was jarring in the midnight silence. Aki hesitated, then slowly lifted the receiver. A wall of distorted, screeching static met his ear. Just as he was about to hang up, a voice sharp, clear, and seemingly originating from within his own skull spoke two words: "Found you." A cacophony of distorted laughter erupted. Aki dropped the phone and spun around. Pressed against the exterior glass of the booth was a woman. Her face was a pale mask of rawness. Her smile was stretched far beyond the limits of human anatomy, her eyes fixed on his with a terrifying intensity. She began to laugh, a wet, bubbling sound that filled the small space. Aki scrambled out of the booth and ran. He didn't look back, his lungs burning as he sprinted toward the safety of his apartment. He tried to convince himself it was a hallucination, a product of exhaustion and guilt. But the world around him began to shift. In the weeks that followed, Aki was never truly alone. He would hear footsteps behind him on empty streets, deliberate, rhythmic steps that mirrored his own. When he stopped, they stopped. One evening, while fleeing these phantom sounds, he darted across a road and was nearly struck by a car. The driver, visibly shaken, shouted at him, "Are you insane? Why are you playing tag with your girlfriend in the middle of the street?" Aki looked around. The street was vacant. There was no one near him. The haunting permeated his home. He saw shadows moving behind the shower curtain. The motion sensor lights in his hallway would trigger in the dead of night when no one was moving. His health began to deteriorate. He was plagued by constant lethargy and a string of inexplicable injuries on the soccer field. The most terrifying aspect was the recurring nightmare. He would find himself back in the phone booth, the woman's face pressed against the glass, her voice a constant, mournful rasp. "Give it back. It doesn't belong to you." Aki had no idea what she meant until a chance encounter at a local herbal tea shop. The elderly proprietor, a woman known for her keen intuition, handed him his medicine and remarked, "You should share those cookies with the girl who was riding on the back of your bicycle." Aki had arrived at the shop alone. The realization hit him like a physical blow. The only thing he had taken that didn't belong to him was the slip of paper. That night, driven by a desperate need for resolution, he returned to the phone booth. He found a man in his late 30s there, frantically searching the crevices of the kiosk. Aki approached him and held out the folded note. "Are you looking for this?" The man's face transformed from desperation to profound relief. He explained that the paper had belonged to his late fiancée. Their families had forbidden their union, and they had used that booth as a secret dead drop for messages. She had passed away suddenly, and this scrap of paper, with her handwriting and the hearts she had doodled, was the last physical connection he had to her. Aki handed over the paper, watched the man walk away, and felt a sudden, overwhelming lightness. The nightmares ceased. The footsteps vanished. The shadow in the shower was gone. Aki never made another prank call. To understand why this happened to Aki, we must look at the concept of *ling* spiritual resonance. In Chinese culture, objects are not merely inanimate matter. They can become vessels for human emotion and intent. This is especially true for items associated with intense longing or sudden tragedy. The slip of paper was not just a note. It was a spiritual anchor, a link between the living world and the soul of the woman who wrote it. When Aki took the paper, he didn't just take a piece of trash. He unknowingly seized a piece of the woman's identity. By calling the number, he activated the link. In the realm of the unseen, his voice acted as a summons. To a spirit lingering in the *yin*, the dark, passive energy of the dead, his playful words, "I'm downstairs, let me in," could be misinterpreted as the voice of her lover calling her back to the mortal plane. The misfortunes Aki suffered, the declining health and the accidents are classic symptoms of *soyin*, or a collision with the dead. When a living person carries an object belonging to a spirit, their *yang*, living energy, is drained. The spirit isn't necessarily evil. It is simply trying to reclaim what is hers. The driver seeing a girlfriend and the tea shop auntie seeing a passenger are indications that the spirit had attached itself to Aki's energy field, becoming a literal shadow. The resolution of the story hinges on the Cantonese concept of *11*, the act of returning an object to restore the soul's balance. By returning the paper to the man, the rightful owner who held the other half of that emotional connection, Aki closed the circuit. The spirit no longer had a reason to wander or to cling to a stranger. This story serves as a potent reminder of the boundaries between worlds. In the modern age, we often view the world through a purely material lens, forgetting that our actions and our words carry weight beyond what we can see. A prank might seem like a momentary lapse in judgment, but in the presence of the unseen, there is no such thing as a joke. When you reach out into the darkness, you must be prepared for the possibility that something might reach back. As you move through your city, past the old kiosks in the quiet corners where history lingers, remember Aki, be mindful of what you pick up and be careful whose number you dial. Some connections once made are not easily broken. Sleep well and keep the lights on.